It is time for your favorite Android podcast from the crew of blindandroidusers.com. Kick back and enjoy another fine episode from these Google fanboys as they navigate Android from a blindness perspective. And now, here are your hosts.
Hello and welcome to episode 30 of the Blind Android Users podcast on Saturday, the 3rd of July, 2021. I'm Ed Green, and I'm joined this week by my co-hosts Warren Carr, Austin Pinto, and Mariam Mosen. On this week's show, we have announcements from Austin. We turn our mind for our app category to podcast apps. In the In Focus section, we have an interview with Pranit Balgaria, the founder of the Louis voice control app. We have the next in our series of commentary demonstrations from Mariam. And our Android journey this week comes from Dan Mathis. How are we all, folks?
These are amazing. It's a beautiful day here in Port Said, Egypt. And it's a little bit hot as well, as always, but it's cool.
How's Mumbai, Austin?
Mumbai is good. We are getting ready to teleport to the US to enjoy the 4th of July. So after the show, we'll get teleported.
Warren, is it a big weekend for you?
It is the big weekend, and boy, I'm kind of afraid of it. And why am I afraid of it? Because my dog gets crazy. She hates those fireworks, and so July 4th is always a problem. She's already started because kids have already started, little poppers here and there, and boy, that girl is scared. So it's not going to be all that great, but I'll be out there having fun because our town is known as the fireworks zone. Everyone from around even 60 or 80 miles come around here to, pop their fireworks because they're not allowed. And so it's just here that we allow that. And so it's a heaven for fireworks.
So I wonder about Independence Day, really. I mean, it's brilliant that you've demonstrated in the US that you're headstrong and independent, but I can't help thinking that Paul Revere's little tantrum in Boston was several centuries ago now, and whether it's not time for you to grow up a little bit, settle down, and perhaps apply to join the Commonwealth or something, because then you could take up peace-loving, civilized activities like cricket. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, I think US should join the Commonwealth and take part in Cricket World Cup, the next upcoming World Cup.
Yeah, so we get you independent, but I think it's time to dial it down.
That's going back to colonial rule. Hey, Ed, what's up there, man? What's going on?
England are going to progress to the semi-finals of the European Football Championships tonight. They're going to turn over Ukraine fairly comfortably at 8 o'clock our time. Hopefully that's actually happened by the time this podcast is published. Otherwise, I might look quite foolish. But I think it's a routine win over in Rome for England tonight, which I shall watch.
You think that England's going to give Ukraine a whooping?
Yeah, well, I think it'll be 2 or 3 now. I think it'll be fairly comfortable.
Good.
Yes, but we'll see. So then, Austin, what have we got announcements-wise this week?
This week, we don't have any announcements. Only one announcement we have. That is, we are going to start a new segment called Quick Tips by Talkback or CSR. So if our listeners have any quick tips, even we will share some quick tips in the way regarding anything Talkback, CSR, any Android screen reader. You can share it with us, and you can send it us to contact us at blindandroidusers.com, and we will publish it on the show. And we can also, if it's a written quick tips, we can even publish it on the website. So that is all from the announcements.
Brilliant. Thanks, Austin. Yes, do send in your tips and we will feature them on the show. Now, our next app category, the must-have apps that we've been taking you through, is podcasts. Obviously, podcasts have been around for a little while now, since the early 2000s. And as you know, it tends to be episodic audio content to which you can subscribe. They can range anything really from daily podcasts through any time interval you can imagine, through to very occasional ones on any topic under the sun. Really, this is obviously a podcast, so I'm guessing that we've got a level of familiarity familiarity with the medium, but they can cover sports, technology, true crime, music, TV shows, spawn podcasts, anything really. You can have dramas broadcast as podcasts. So a rich vein of audio media, which is obviously particularly interesting to blind people. Austin, you suggested, I think, we feature this category this week. It was on the list, obviously. What's your take on podcasts, and what's your podcast client of choice?
I use Pocket Cast to listen to podcasts because one of the benefits of doing that is the pro version of Pocket Cast supports chapter markers. And a lot of podcasts now have chapter markers. So what the chapter markers are, when we produce a podcast, we add markers to the audio so that people can just skip forward to a marker. So like for our podcast, there is a marker for the announcement section. There is a marker for the in focus and the Android basics section. So on. So Pocket Cast Pro supports chapter markers, and there'll be other apps also supporting. So I use Pocket Cast Pro.
What about you, Warren? What's your podcast client of choice?
When it comes to podcast clients, I've been around everywhere. I started though back with Pocket Casts, and then came along. What was that thing from England? I really like that. Now it's just, was it Player FM? Oh gosh, I'm really sorry. The guy would hate me for forgetting his podcast, because he and I work hard on accessibility on that thing. So I think it's Player FM. So I had that. Then I had Castbox. Then I had a bunch of others. But over the time, I kind of whittled down, and it's just like Pocket Casts or Google's own podcast client. These are the only two I have left when it's all said and done. So that's what I got. I got the two. And like Austin said, I think for me, though, it's not whether I'm able to jump through chapters or any of that. But for me, it all comes down to, hey, am I able to just stream it or download it? And I think for me, a good podcast client should offer both, whether you want to download it or you want to simply stream it. And that's why I like both Pocket Cast and the Google client. And also then there's another category that comes in handy on a podcast client. Does it support video? Some do and some don't. And so when you're looking at podcast clients, it's important, if you're into video and all of that, that you make sure that you get one that supports what you're looking for. Because if you don't, then you're going to be disappointed. And I do want to mention here in passing that Pocket Casts does have that video support, and probably one of the very few ones that I know that support video, and that also includes that Player FM. And that those two would be my two most important podcast clients. Now, I'm not sure that the Google podcast supports video. I haven't tried it, so I'm not going to be excluding it until I try it. But then, of course, we know that blind people have other ones that they like, just like any other person, sighted or blind. We're not saying, hey, these are the best, because these things are just subjective, and you can't really say, hey, this is the best client. So it depends on the person. If you're one of those that doesn't want to go to a website to listen to a podcast, then you need a podcast client. And these are some of the ones that we're suggesting, not necessarily recommending as being the best podcast clients, but these are the ones that we use.
Mariam, what about you? What do you use as a podcast client?
So I actually use a couple of them. The first one is Google Podcasts, and by the way, it supports video because I'm a long-time user. Also, what I use is not quite often as the Google one, but what I use as well is the TuneIn Radio. Sometimes actually you can have podcasts on it. It's not the best, but some podcasts that I follow actually are uploaded there. So it works. But what I love about the Google Podcast is its fixed flexibility, and I love how the notification plans actually work with the Google Podcast, and how the playback is actually done. I think it's amazing.
Thanks, Mariam. I mean, for my part, I really like Podcast Addict. It does support chapter markers. It supports download and streaming. It has a lot of settings. It's quite customizable. So I mean, almost to the extent that the settings can become a little bit overwhelming. It's still in active development. Unlike Google Podcasts, it's not entirely free. There's a version with ads which is free. You can pay to remove ads, and I think they also have some features which are available by a subscription that are particularly server heavy. But do check out Podcast Addict. It's a relatively clean interface. It's not too cluttered. So that's another one that I quite like. Marion touched on something I was going to mention with podcast clients by mentioning TuneIn Radio, and that is that podcast functionality is available through apps that do other things. So Spotify, for instance, allows you to play some podcasts and your music all in one. I don't think it's a particularly feature-rich podcast app, but if all you want to do is find the podcast and play it, and you value the fact that you could have it in the same app as some of your media, if you're a Spotify subscriber, then that might be an option for you. Similarly, Amazon Music also offers some podcast functionality. There are a lot of podcast apps to go at, though. Those are just some of the ones that we quite like.
Talking about settings, Ed, your choice of podcast client, that is the Podcast Addict, would go hand in hand with Pocket Casts because there's so many settings. It's sometimes a little bit convoluted, and then in Pocket Casts, you also have settings for each podcast. So if you subscribe to different podcasts, you can customize those individually, and it gets overwhelming for someone who's not, all that familiar with that kind of thing. So in reality, I think the most simple podcast client that I have found happens to be that one from Google. It's very simplistic and all of that. So sometimes it's hard to tell a new user, hey, get this one or get that one. But I think it's always good to have something that is simple, that's easy to use. But then as you mature, probably you want to look at feature-rich podcast clients that you may further customize. And this is where clients like Podcast Addict or the Pocket Casts may come in handy. So keep that in mind, play with them, see which one it is that you actually prefer, because it saves you time from having to go to the website, notifies you whenever there's a new episode of the podcast that you're following.
Yeah, I think that's definitely right. One other thing I'd mention, most of the podcast apps have some sort of discover or explore mode where it will recommend podcasts that you might like. Those screens can get relatively cluttered. So I'm not picking on Google Podcasts. It's the same in every app. So if you click on the Explore tab there, you're going to get upwards of 16 different tabs. So you might find yourself wanting to move to the top of the screen quite a bit in some of those in some of those feeds, because there are just so many different podcasts available that in so many different categories that those different genres and categories will inevitably take up a fair amount of screen on your app. But normally there are tabs or menu options to get you to a less cluttered interface, and they all tend to have a home area as well. So as you add podcasts, the podcasts that you subscribe to will be kind of front and center on whatever your podcast app has for a home tab.
Okay, so let's quickly show a little quick overview of Pocket Casts, just in case anyone wants to. It is very complicated. Well, not complicated, probably that's not the right word to use, but there's a lot of it, and it's been purchased by NPR, and I think NPR was selling it again or something like that. I think something like that happened. I don't remember what's going on. But anyway, I still have the app. It costs, I think I got it when it was like $6 or $4.99. I don't remember what it was. So I kind of got grandfathered into it. but now they have a subscription model. You can pay 99 cents a month or so much for 6 months or annually, whatever that kind of thing is.
Folder, podcasting, 2 items. Pocket Casts, folder opened, 2 by 1.
So here I am. I'm going to open up Pocket Casts.
Pocket Casts, podcasts.
When you open up Pocket Casts, if you haven't signed up before, so it's going to take you through that discovery mode. In other words, it's going to show you the categories that you could tap on to subscribe to some of those. So basically showing you what is available. Now, of course, if you know what you're looking for, you can always search for what you're looking for. And so as a result, it has these tabs at the bottom, and there are 4 in total at the bottom. So starting from the bottom left, we've got
Podcasts, tab, selected, 1 of 4, in list, 4 items.
And the reason why mine defaults to my podcast as a default, because I've already subscribed to several podcasts. And so when it starts up, of course, it places me there where my subscriptions are. And now to the right of that,
Filters, tab, 2 of 4.
we have filters. And these are very complex. And I'm not going to go through those today.
Discover, tab, 3 of 4.
And Discover, usually that would be the one that you default to if you haven't signed up for anything. Here's where it will show all the different podcasts available, and you could always search for what you're looking for, but you can go through this list and see which of them would interest you.
So, regarding that, I have a question. So, does it show the trending podcasts or just randomly podcasts?
It shows the trending podcasts. And so I'm going to go to that Discovery page in a bit here. Now, to the right of that Discover
Profile, tab, 4 of 4.
is the profile. So you tap on that. Then if you're not subscribed or if you're not logged in, it will show you where to log in and all of that. So let's go back to the one that Miriam was talking about, and that's the Discover tab. And this by default would be where you would be if you're starting for the first time.
Discover, tab, 3. Discover, selected. Showing item 1 of 5.
When I tap on Discover, here's what we got. Now, starting from the top,
Search podcasts, out of list.
you could search. So, for instance, if you want to search for blind Android users, because I'm not sure that we're one of the big ones, we're hoping to be, but currently, though, we're probably not even recognized by these guys as one of the big wigs. So, you're looking for us, you have to tap on that search and then type in blind Android podcasts, and there you'll find us. Or else, these are the ones that you will find.
The README podcast, GitHub, in list.
So, you see that?
Featured, button.
So, it is one of the featured
The
ones.
README podcast, trending, out of list.
And then below that, you have the trending ones.
World's Greatest Con, Dog and Pony Show Audio, in list. BTN subscribe, button.
And then, below each of those, there's a subscribe, and you can just scroll up and go through the list.
Sponsored, Out Travel the System, inspiration and insider information for your next travel adventure.
See what I mean? So maybe we
Showing
need to
items
have them to get blind Android users to the featured right up there at the top, man, or in the trending one. So you guys, you want to see us up there, you need to be listening to this podcast so that will be up there at the top at either the trending or the featured podcast. Now,
Network highlight, BBC. The BBC creates distinctive, world-class shows.
so it's BBC stuff right there. So that's what I'm talking about. So you go through this and choose that the one that you want and all of that. But like I said, always there's that handy search tool there right at the very top, and you could search for what you're looking for. And that's what I utilize most of the time instead of going through all of that. And that would be how Pocket Cast works. But like I said, though, after you've subscribed to a particular kind of podcast, you could further customize that podcast and all of that. So that's a good thing about podcasts.
So
Podcast,
actually, does it
Pocket Cast.
like if I'm listening to an episode, because that happens with the Google Podcast. When I just close the app and go back to it again, does it actually go back from where it left? Does it continue from the where I actually left or when I actually stopped listening to in this certain episode.
It does start you off where you left off. And not only does it do that, but another important thing that we forgot to mention is the fact that it syncs across your different devices. So whether you are listening to it on the website or you're listening to it on another phone or on a speaker, it remembers where you left. And so it syncs across your devices. And that's one of the good things about the podcast client. And frankly, if a podcast client is not the type that syncs your devices or remembers where you live, then probably I'm not sure that I would like to recommend such a podcast client. But that's one of the strengths of Pocket Casts, and hence the reason why I chose Pocket Cast. And the same thing is true with the Google Podcast, because whether you're listening to it on your Google Home Assistant speaker or on your phone or on the web, those things are synced across your devices and it remembers where you live. So these two, I know for sure that they remember where you left off and they sync across your devices. It does, what's that one? Podcast Addict. Does it sync across your devices?
I'm not sure. I certainly haven't created an account with it. So it may not do, but equally it may offer an account feature. I'm going to go on mute real quickly and see if it has a sign-in option. I'm not sure it does, but let me check.
Yeah, I think it would probably have a sign-in feature because if this is something that is paid, I would think that it would have such a feature. Now, Miriam, while Ed is looking at that, does TuneIn let you synchronize across your devices?
Yeah, TuneIn does synchronize just because if you actually, because you have a Windows client and a website and things like that, so you can just log in with your Google account or your Facebook account, and it's gonna actually sync across all your devices.
That's important because if a podcast client is not syncing across your devices, then probably it's time to look for another one. But then, of course, it depends on the person. But I think that one important thing is the fact that a podcast client should be able to remember where you left off, just like reading a book. It bookmarks where I left off so that when I come back, I'm not starting at the beginning. That would be very frustrating. And so we know that these that we're talking about do have that feature of remembering where I left off. I was looking at our podcast a little while ago today, and I was looking at episode 26. I think I was up to 45 minutes or whatever. I went back to that, and of course, it started me back at that very place where I left off. So, Pocket Cast does support that, and it's one of the most important thing in a podcast client, of course, in my never to be humble opinion.
Yeah, but what I also want to point out is that actually the fact that there are some podcatchers that don't actually take you when you're left off, because what happens is they actually, like, if you're listening to episode, the app works in the background. Once you actually close it from the notification panel, it doesn't take you back to where you actually were listening to. But on the other hand, there are some podcatchers like Google, for instance, and TuneIn as well, which actually they don't care whenever if you actually close the app or not, but they work anyways. So this is one of the things that I really wanted to point out about.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're talking about. And all of these that we talked about, including Pocket Casts, does have that. So whether you turn off your phone, come back, whatever the case may be, and you launch the app, it remembers where you left.
So Podcast Addict will do that. It'll remember your place on one device. It won't sync. But you can close it from your app switcher. You can shut your phone off. It'll bookmark you, but it won't sync across devices. So if you are someone who wants to, I don't know, listen to your podcast on your phone, pick it up on a different phone or something, then Podcast Addict isn't going to work. If you're a one device person for your podcast, then it's worth considering.
Well, that's good to know because it makes sense that people know what's out there, what the strengths
Yeah.
and weaknesses are, and what is important to you. But I think for me, the two top important features of a good podcast client will be whether I could download it or simply stream it. I don't download podcasts because sometimes that fills up quick unless if you have a phone that has an SD card. And that's why, hey, I'm looking at you, Google, bring back the SD card or
The SD card is dead. It's gone. I remember when Apple got rid of the floppy drive, there was outrage. They never brought it back.
I know Google never had an SD card slot in the first place anyway, but this is what I'm talking about. So if you happen to be one of those that like to download your podcast to your phone, then after a while that baby is going to fill up quick, unless of course, some of these things have an auto delete, say, hey, after 30 days or in 30 days, delete listened to podcasts or episodes and things like that. So one could set it to do that, or get a trusted SD card and keep your stuff.
And I'm guessing Pocket Casts as well has variable speed, does it? You can speed up your podcast if you want to.
It does, and so does the Google podcast client.
Yeah,
and I think just about every podcast client there, though, seem to have that. You could change how fast you want to listen to it, so you finish it. And then another thing, though, is the sleep timer. And I know that both the Pocket Casts and Google Podcast Client both have that feature of a sleep timer, because I may be a little bit sleepy and getting dream dust in my eyes there. Set a little timer, stop it so I'm not missing what's being said. So it's good to have a podcast client that has a sleep timer.
Yeah, and variable speed as well. We shouldn't forget that people might want to slow the podcast down. I mean, who wouldn't want blind Android users to take up more of your day than the scheduled allotted length of the podcast? You probably want to slow us down to 2.5.
Exactly my point. Yeah. Yeah. Well, great.
So I am going to demo Google Podcast, which is the most simplistic podcast application.
Podcasts. Explore. Google. Explore. Out of grid.
So this is the Explore. Now let us see the layout first.
Signed in as up. Explore.
So on top you have something called Explore.
Search.
Then you have the sign in, that's your email address. Then you have search, where you can search for our podcast, obviously.
Selected. For you. Tab. 1 of 16.
Then
List,
we have
16
lot
items.
of tabs here. This is the For You tab, where it will show you the podcast that it thinks you are interested in.
News. Tab. 2 of 16.
This is the news category.
Culture. Tab. 3 of 16.
These are all the podcast categories that are there.
Education. Tab. 4 of 16. Business. Tab. 5 of 16. Comedy. Tab. 6 of 16. Arts. Tab. 7 of 16. Technology. Tab. 8 of 16.
And this is our category of the podcast. So
Health and fitness. Tab. 9 of 16. Kids and family. Tab. 10 of 16. Science. Tab. 11 of 16. History. Tab. 12 of 16. Self-improvement. Tab. 13 of 16. TV and film. Tab. 14. Music. Tab. 15 of 16. Sports. Tab. 16 of 16. Popular and trending. Out of list.
So this is the popular and trending section.
Jokes and Hindi. In list.
Jokes in Hindi, which is an Indian podcast. Now, this will recommend the podcast in your region. This trending section will be different for different regions because it will recommend podcast fit for your region, for your language.
More actions. Button. My favorite Airman songs.
Arman songs, A.R. Rahman songs.
More
He's a
actions.
popular
Button.
singer in India.
Learning English podcast. Flow Learning English. More actions. Ghana music. More actions. TED Talks Daily.
So these are some of the popular trending podcasts. Let us search for our podcast now.
Explore. Out of list. Site. Search. Showing. N. E. L. I. N. D. A. N. D. T. R. O. I. D. D. Space. With Android. Selected. Blind Android users. Keyboard hidden.
And as you type blind Android, you get the blind Android users in the search suggestions.
Blind Android users podcast out of list.
And
Google.
you click this.
Blind Android users podcast. Blind Android users podcast. 30 episodes in list.
And it says 30 episodes. So we have 29 episodes, and then there's a bonus episode.
Blind Android users. Checked. Unsubscribe. Checkbox.
So this checkbox is when you have subscribed, when you have not subscribed. So if you search and come to the Blind Android Users podcast for the first time, it will say not subscribed, then you can check it and it will subscribe you.
Visit website button.
You can visit our website from here.
Share button.
You can share the podcast, which you should do.
At Blind Android users, we strive to make using Android as easy as possible for every blind person who's starting the Android journey. We bridge the dividing gap that stands between blind people, both new to Android and those familiar with the platform, on the use of the platform, and revealing what makes the OS the platform to be on. The Blind Android podcast believes that no blind person should be struggling with their Android device. Thus, we have determined to embark on the mission of understanding Android from a blindness perspective as easy as a child's play.
So that is the description.
More, show more.
And you can see something more. Let's see.
Blind Android users, like, check, visit website, share, at like, more, show more.
If you click on this,
Download episode. Showing
you
items
can
1 to 2 of
download
32.
episode.
Download episode. Blind Android users podcast. Play episode Blind Android users podcast episode 28. It's all about audio recorders and interview with Ryan Kemmler. Add to your queue. Download episode.
So under each episode, there is
Download episode. Add to your queue. Play episode Blind Android users podcast episode 29. Battle of the OCR packages and interview with Scott Adams and Zoe Ortiz from Lookout.
so this is our latest episode.
Add to your queue.
That is add to your queue. So you can add it to a playlist kind of thing where you can queue these with other podcasts so that if you're going on a long trip, you can play these episodes back to back.
Download episode.
You can download the episode for offline viewing. If you don't have internet connectivity, then you can download and play these episodes offline.
Blind Android users podcast. Play episode Blind Android users podcast episode 28. It's all about audio recorders and interview with Ryan Kemmler, product manager for TalkBack.
Let's open this or let's play this.
Play episode.
It is time for your favorite Android podcast from the crew of blindandroidusers.com. Kick back and enjoy another fine episode from these Google fanboys as they navigate Android from a blindness perspective. And now, here are your hosts.
Hello and welcome to Add to Your Queue. This download episodes added play episode Blind Android users podcast episode 28. It's all about audio.
So the play episode also converts into a pause episode and you can then download or add to your queue.
Blind Android users podcast. Blind Android play button. More actions button.
Then
Play episode Blind Android users
we
podcast.
have-
Sorted. At Blind share. Visit website. Checked. Blind Android. More actions button.
on the top of the page, we have these more actions. If you
Pop-up
click
window.
here,
Add to home screen and list.
you can add the shortcut of a podcast to your home screen so it is easy for you to listen to it.
View RSS feed.
You can view the RSS feed
Settings.
and settings.
Send app feedback.
You can send app feedback. So let's go into
Settings.
settings very quick. I don't think there is anything
More
much
actions button. Out of
in the
list.
settings.
Personalization. Preferred language and region. Downloads.
So this is all personalization, preferred
and
language and region. You can set it.
region. Downloads.
Let's go into downloads and see what happens.
Auto downloading disabled.
Now this, if you have good amount of storage and if you're listening to the episodes on an unmetered connection, you can enable auto downloading. It will download the episodes and archive them.
Remove completed episodes after 24 hours.
This option tells how long do you want to keep your completed list of episodes. That means, let's say you listen to podcast episode 29 and after 24 hours, it will remove the episode from your downloaded storage. So you can set various things here.
Remove unfinished episodes after 30 days.
If you have just started an episode and not heard it for 30 days, it will remove it from your list of your either download episodes or queue.
Notifications. Audio playback enabled.
Audio playback has to be enabled or you won't get to hear the podcast.
Notification. Audio. New episodes from your subscriptions disabled.
And you want to enable that.
Explore. New episodes from. Back button. Notification. More actions. New episodes. More actions. Blind Android users podcast and list. My Tech Show podcast.
So these are all your subscriptions.
More actions. Pop-up window. Enable for all and list.
And you can enable for all at one time. So let me enable it.
Blind Android users podcast and list. My Tech. Play the previous episode from the show Blind Android users podcast. Open the show page for Blind Android. Play the next episode. Blind Android users podcast. Blind Android users podcast episode 28. Play button. Home. Selected. Explore.
So that is it for the Google Podcast demo. It's a very simplistic app. Unfortunately, it does not support chapter markers. So I hope Google implements support for chapter markers urgently, because that is a good, useful feature if the episode is a long episode, or if you want to just skip to a segment that you want to hear first, and then if you want to hear the remaining episode, then you can do that. So that is it from me for this demo.
Excellent. So do tell us what you like. There are a bundle of podcast apps out there, some of which are accessible, some of which aren't. So if you prefer ones we haven't talked about, if you've discovered a hidden gem among podcast apps, then do let us know.
Absolutely. And that we will add that to the list of podcast clients that we like. So if you find another one that you think is nice, that worth the mention, please let us know.
And now it's time for our In Focus section. And this week we have an interview with Pramit Bhargava, developer of the Louis voice control app.
Hello everyone, welcome to this very special interview. Today we have got 3 guests with us, and all 3 are from my country, that is India. We have the developer of Louis Voice Assistant, Pramit Bhargava from India.
Hello everybody, Pramit, and delighted to be here.
And then we have got Mayank from India as well.
Hello everyone, thank you.
And we've got Joe from India.
Hey everyone.
So thanks for coming. It is very nice to see you all come here today.
Yeah, I think it's great for us, and we would be happy to show you what all Louis can do.
Thank you so much, guys. Warren here. And I also have with us here today one of our co-hosts. I call her the pretty one. Hey, Miriam. Of course, she's kind of on the sleepy side.
No. I definitely like to welcome all our guests. It's a pleasure to have you all here.
And, Pramit and your friends, we really want to thank you for taking your time to come, because I know it's not easy to be doing something this time in the morning on a Saturday. Oh my, it's time to sleep, and you guys are volunteering and sacrificing your time to do this. We are deeply appreciative of what you're doing. And so, Pramit, what we're talking about here today is talking about the Louis Braille voice assistant. And how about you take us back to the history? What led you to this? And then, we go from here.
Oh, all right. Because so I'll talk a little bit about myself and talk about how the inspiration came. So I used to be somebody who had a normal vision. I did computer engineering, then went on to do MBA and worked with companies like Unilever, Motorola, Quest Diagnostics. And about 21 years back, I was given a drug for joint pains. The drug did work. The joint pains disappeared, but it also reacted on the retina. And all of a sudden, I realized that probably it happened overnight. I'm still not sure. My vision had suddenly dropped a lot. I could still get some correction. I could still read. So I was working with Unilever at that time. So sort of, life still continued. over the years, vision kept dropping. Doctors, of course, had no idea, of any kind of, cure or prognosis or anything. When it really hit me was about 9 years back, when suddenly it took a nosedive, the vision, and I realized everything got cloudy, foggy, wavy, whichever way you call it, and I just couldn't read anything at all. And suddenly I had the fright of my life. I'll be, honest to share that 2-3 years I was just sitting at home. I lost all confidence. My family was, of course, taking care of me, but you know how it is. You become even more dependent, and when you become more dependent, you lose your confidence even more.
Absolutely.
So slowly I start figuring out, okay, are there tools that can help me? So came across something called a screen reader talkback, turned it on, and I realized my phone is locked. Of course, the sighted family members also could not help because nobody could figure out. So the only option we had was to go on to Google and figure out how to get out of this damn thing, So, but then, of course, I realized that this can be very useful, figured out how to do it. Similarly, discovered NVDA, and you tried NVDA just because the name sounded different. I said, NVDA is something exciting. Let me try it out. And of course, it works beautifully. So slowly I was, figuring out, discovering all these solutions, working out my own formula. And in a way that helped me because I had a completely open mind. Nobody trained me. Nobody really told me this is the way, that way. So that kept an open mind. Slowly I got the confidence back and started doing some consulting work. And it was while I was doing that couple of very chance events actually got me onto Louis. I had no plans at all. As you can imagine, somebody is just was sitting at home in this lost phase and just trying to come back. So I had this meeting. I had gone to meet managing director of Sequoia Capital. It's a large venture capital company in the world, and they are very, very big in India. I had this meeting with him basically with a single-minded agenda to get consulting assignments from them since they invest in so many startups. So that was my agenda. And this gentleman, he heard my story. So he asked me what apps I use and, what are their pluses, minuses. And in between the meeting, he says, look, I'm not going to help you on consulting. This is like a complete nonsense. Why don't you go build apps for visually impaired people like you?
Thank you. Yep.
So honestly, that time, I thought this guy is crazy. So I kept pushing him for consulting, and then then he said, no, go away, think about it, come back, then we'll see. So it took me a while because the thought of doing a startup, and then I did computer engineering a while back, and then since then I've been more into marketing and managing businesses. So yet there was something inside me that was telling me that, look, this is almost like a golden opportunity and I shouldn't miss. Very rarely do you get these chance of leveraging your own disability and putting it to use and hopefully building something that can work for other visually friends as well. There was, by the way, at that time, fortunately, I read another study which was in Australia where people on the deathbed were asked if they have any regrets, and almost 95% said that they couldn't follow their what their heart was saying. They didn't do what they should have done. And I said, I'm not going to be one of those 95%. So I said, I'm going to do something about it. So this gentleman was helping me on the personal front, not Sequoia officially, but on the personal front. Then, of course, he put another question onto me saying that, look, I've heard enough of, what works, on how it works, etc. But tell me what is a good app that you will build. And this is where, again, I got stumped because it's very easy to, we can all be experts and criticize and all of that. But to come up with an idea and say, okay, this will work, that's not easy at all. So this is when another chance meeting happened. I mean, these is, so that's why, this whole thing has been full of chances, accidental meetings. So I had gone to meet a friend who, on the way back, he took my Android phone and he said, why don't I book Uber for you? And he opened Uber. He asked me my destination. I gave it to him. He said, these are the 3 options appearing on the screen. I said, okay, take this one. Then he told me the rides, the fares. Again, I made a selection. Then he reconfirmed everything with me. So just to be sure that I know what booking is happening. So pick up, destination. which ride, fare, and how am I going to pay? Right. I confirmed, and then he booked, and then even call the driver, message the driver for me. And on the way back in Uber, Warren, I just thought there was something amazing about this experience. Now, as a visually impaired, I want to be independent. I want to be in control as well. And here there was, an amazing experience where it was, of course, extremely convenient because somebody else is doing it for you. But I was the one who was in charge all through. I was the one making the decisions. So then, like a eureka thing, a thought just came. And I said, what if I build a virtual friend right there on the phone screen, which will do exactly what my human friend does? So it will do a continuous voice interaction with me. It will take my voice commands. It will perform all the actions within an app. It will allow me to do each and everything within an app, just like a sighted person. And he'll also understand this virtual friend that I cannot see the screen at all. So there's a very special kind of handholding that a blind person requires. So this is really the concept of Louis voice control. This is how the concept came alive. So just give Louis voice commands and it will allow you to do each and everything within a supported app, all with just voice commands.
Wow, that's a wonderful story, Pramit. And look at what it has done around the world, because now it's not only in India that people are using Louis Voice Control Assistant, but I mean all over the world, and most especially in the developing world and anywhere else, and where people especially like to use things like WhatsApp and other apps, for communications and all of that. I can see that immense important advantages of using this, because a lot of people are not that familiar using the virtual keyboard and all of that. So just imagine having the ability to use one's voice to read and respond to your WhatsApp messages or whatever the case may be. It's a big win-win situation for everybody. And so, Pramit, this is a great thing that you have done. You've created such a wonderful thing for everyone. And so you brought some friends along with you here today, and I'm sure they would be able to kind of help us demonstrate a little bit about that and all of that. But I got a question, because I think there's a little bit of a confusion going on. Some are thinking it's a screen reader. Now, is it a screen reader on its own, or is it mainly like a voice assisted, using voice mainly and not necessarily a screen reader? Because I think there's a little mention of a screen reading capability in there, is there?
Okay, correct. Okay, so the core of the product, like I mentioned, it's a voice assistant, right? It's basically designed, and this is where all our energies are going. It's essentially designed to take a user's voice commands and allowed them to do, like I said, each and everything within a supported app. By the way, when we started work, because if you see, Louis can work both on the screen as well as under the screen. It can also work with API. So basically, that gives us a huge flexibility to be able to essentially voice enable each and every app. Even if the app is not fully accessible, we can voice enable it for the user. Now, part of doing that, we initially built a screen reader because we needed to build these screen scraping technologies. So yes, there is, Louis does have a screen reader, which is not very visible. You have to go deep inside settings, because the reason was, I'll tell you why. Because I think screen readers are there, and bringing in another screen reader will not make a dramatic difference. I think the new TalkBack 9 itself is doing pretty well. So what we said is we'll focus on something that nobody else is providing. And right now, if you see, there is no other app like Louis. And you were right; it's being used in over we have users in over 90 countries across the world.
Wow.
And one after another, there are a whole lot of apps that we are now voice enabling. Yesterday, we released Gmail. And just to give you the entire list, so it's we started, of course, with Uber, the story that I said. And we have WhatsApp.
The one that took you home.
The one that took me home. And by the way, it's working for a lot of people. Because, with Uber, I'll tell you, a lot of it is also about that confidence of, being able to book correctly. Sometimes Uber app goes up and down. It's not accessible. Sometimes it has happened with me. I wouldn't know whether I have selected the right destination. So often I'll start a set in Uber and first confirm with the driver. So anyway, so Uber, YouTube, WhatsApp, Google search, Gmail has just come in. Managing your contacts completely, creating new contacts, editing,
Wow.
deleting, blocking, messages, then phone call, then even all the critical phone settings, and within a week we are also coming up with Facebook Messenger, and then of course there are a whole lot of other apps that we'll talk about that we are looking at.
That is so interesting, though, because I tell you, on blind Android users, we have a lot of questions, people trying to do the things that we think are so mundane. And yet, in the same breath, these are huge tasks to this type of people, new beginners. And so, in reality, an app like Louis Braille Voice Assistant is going to be a huge thing for those people to use, most especially. And I'm thinking of, people that are not familiar with screen reader, or not familiar with touchscreen devices in general, and would like to have one, but then are afraid of not going to be able to use that touchscreen. This could be something that comes in handy for such a person to use. And frankly, talking about it now, I'm actually really excited about it. I know the last time I tried it was a little while ago, and now, of course, I'm going to be playing with it again, because there's no such thing as me easily composing my messages with my voice instead of typing it. I finish maybe like a 300 word or 300 character message versus trying to type it. It's going to take me a longer time trying to type it when compared to using my voice. So definitely I'm going to be using this thing myself as well. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'll be great. And Warren, the other thing which happened with me, by the way, I had a mind block against voice. So even though the idea came, and then I wasn't sure, but then, one thing I'll tell you, and I've seen it with a lot of people, it can be very, very addictive. Just like that convenience of, being able to do things in a very relaxed way. It can be highly addictive. I mean, and you can see it, for example, in the US alone, I think almost 40% of the households, even sighted ones, have got these smart speakers, Alexa and Google
exactly.
Home. Right.
Yes.
And it's convenient. I mean, I am very fond of Alexa, so, because it brings in a convenience. And the other thing, I'll tell you, which sometimes we forget, see, part of that accessibility is not just a screen reader telling you which button. But let's say I'll give you a real scenario. I've done my Uber booking. Suddenly I realize that I don't need to go. Now Uber will charge me if I don't cancel it quickly, right?
Yeah.
Now cancel button is right at the bottom of that booking screen. Now, if I don't know where it is, imagine I'm swiping, 20, 30 swipes. I still don't know under pressure. With Louis, you don't need to know which button is where or which setting is where. So sometimes it can be deep inside. So you want to cancel, for example, you want to, let's say, clear your chat. Right. A lot of people in WhatsApp are not sure how to clear my chat because that setting is inside. Right. You just tell Louis clear chat and it does the job for you. So that would be another aspect that it can bring in.
Love it. So would one of your guests that came along with you, either Miriam or Joy, which of you would like to demonstrate to us a little bit about Louis, maybe like creating a contact or sending a message, or reading a message on WhatsApp, that kind of thing?
Sure. So, Joe, maybe we can start off with contact.
Yes, that would be great.
Hey, Louis.
Hello, Joe. Which app would you like to open?
Contact.
Create a new contact, read all contact, browse call logs, or search for an existing contact.
New contact.
Please speak the number from the digits between 0 to 9.
9811886001.
Got it. 98118866001. Confirm or re-enter.
Confirm.
Say or spell the name by which you want to save this contact.
Pramit.
Got it. Pramit. Confirm or re-enter.
No.
Say or spell the name by which you want to save this contact.
Boss.
Got it. Boss. Confirm or re-enter.
Confirm.
Contact save boss 98118860001. Call, message, edit, delete, block, search, or cancel.
Call.
Okay, calling boss.
So
Yeah,
Warren, this
so-
is actually my number she's calling.
That is wonderful. I'm
Okay,
so
so-
excited about it.
Wow.
Yeah, so okay, now what
This
we'll
is
show you
amazing.
asked for WhatsApp, so we'll show you a lot more within WhatsApp. So just to tell you, so Louis is not just about voice enabling things. We have also added a lot of capabilities. So so for example, within WhatsApp, Louis can now do image recognition seamlessly. So we'll show you how it will read a
Ah.
text message. It will automatically figure out it's an image. It will describe the image in a basic way. It will read the text on the image. Louis can read documents, so it can even read scanned PDF documents. And by
Oh,
the
that
way,
would be-
Louis can also now work because there's a lot of feedback from users in Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia about internet being very expensive and patchy. So Louis can work in offline mode as well for contacts, phone calling, text messaging, which doesn't require any internet.
Great.
Right. So, so Joe, let's show image recognition and all of that on WhatsApp.
All right, promise.
Hi Joe, which app would you like to open?
WhatsApp.
Opening it. Latest chat. Fish ups. Product. Yesterday. Pinned. Mona. 9:01 a.m. 4 unread messages. Mona. 9:01 a.m.
Open.
Okay, opening. Chat with Mona. Received. Hi Joe. Good morning. 9 a.m. Downloading.
Hi, please call me whenever you have time. I want to discuss something.
Received. 9:01 a.m. This message contains image of size 56 kilobytes. Would you like me to describe this image? Yes or no?
Yes.
Downloading. Opening image. This image contains petal, flower, poster, plant, love, flesh. Text written on the image, or if we could spread love as quickly as we spread hate and negativity, what a beautiful world we would live in. Received. Cam scanner file 1 _ cam scanner file 1.pdf, 9:01 a.m. This message contains PDF. Would you like me to read? Yes or no?
Yes.
No document found. No more messages. Received.
Open.
Downloading. Opening file. Reading. Power on, press and hold the side button to turn on iPhone or activate Siri. Power off an SOS, press and hold the side button and either volume button to turn off iPhone or make an emergency call. Charging, use the lightning connector or place iPhone face up on a Qi certified wireless charger. 2020 Apple link. All rights reserved. Printed in China. 03404128A scanned with cam scanner. Reading complete. Going back. Chat with Mona. Latest message. Received. Received.
New message.
Text message or voice message.
Voice message.
Speak after the ping sound. Touch with one finger to send and 2 fingers to cancel. Speak now.
Hey Mona, how are you?
Message sent. New message. Reverse read.
Play.
Hey Mona, how are you?
No more messages.
Text message.
Speak your message.
Hi Mona, good morning.
Got it. Hi Mona, good morning. Send, rewrite, continue writing or cancel.
Continue with space.
Speak your message.
I hope you are doing well.
Got it. Hi Mona, good morning. I hope you are doing well. Send,
Continue with new line.
speak your message.
I am writing this message using Louis voice control. Full stop.
Got it. Hi Mona, good morning. I hope you are doing well. I am writing this message using Louis voice control. Send, rewrite.
Send.
Message sent. New message. Reverse read.
Share location.
Current location or live location.
Live location.
Choose duration. 15 minutes, 1 hour or 8 hours.
15 minutes.
Live location shared. Latest message. Sent. 9:14 a.m. Delivered. This message contains location map.
Delete.
Delete entire chat or message.
Message.
Delete for me or everyone.
Everyone.
Deleted. Latest message. Received. You deleted this message. Received.
Clear chat.
Confirm clear chat.
Yes.
Cleared. Chat screen. Latest chat. Fish ups. Product. Yesterday. Pinned. Mona. Pin. Mona.
Call.
Voice or video call.
Voice call.
Starting voice call.
So Warren, if you allow us, we'll also like to show Gmail, which we released yesterday.
By all means. I am odd. I am odd.
Right. Thank you. Joe, you want to do your Gmail?
Yes. Hey, Louis.
Hi, Joe. Which app would you like to open?
Gmail.
Opening Gmail. Signed in as Jody Negi Jody at Vizio-apps.com. Latest email. Unread. Mind Pharma nice presentation at 8:59 a.m. Unread. Mind Pharma. Unread. Norpley Play developer.
Previous.
Latest email. Unread. Mind.
Open.
Opening. Email detail screen. Email from Mind Pharma to me. Prompt. Nice presentation inbox. 8:59 a.m. Dear Jody, hope you and yours are doing well. Love the demonstration you did yesterday. Looking forward to the next one. Best. Do you want to reply? Reply all. Forward. Delete or more options.
Reply all.
Okay. Speak your email.
Thanks so much.
Got it. Thanks so much. Send. Rewrite. Continue writing or cancel.
Send.
Email send. Email detail screen. Email from Jody Negi to mine. Prompt. Nice presentation inbox. 9:17 a.m. Dear Jody, hope you and yours are doing well. Love. Reply. Reply all. Forward. Delete or more.
Go back.
Gmail home screen. Currently selected. Latest email. Me nice presentation at 8:59 a.m. Unread. Norpley Play developer console. Your update is live at 3:34. Unread.
Open.
Opening. Email detail screen. Email from Norpley-play-developer-console at google.com. To me, your update is live inbox, 3:34 a.m. Hello, your update to Louis voice control your apps with voice commands, created on June 25th, 2021 at 3:52 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, is live in the store. Louis voice. Reply.
Delete.
Confirm delete. Yes or no?
Yes.
Email deleted. Currently selected. Unread. Norpley Play developer console pre-launch report for Louis voice control. Unread.
Compose.
Okay. Say or spell first name.
Mayank.
Got it. Mayank. I found 2 results. Mayank Pharma. Mayank at Vizio-apps.com. Mayank Pharma.
Select.
What would you like to do next? Add more recipients, CC, BCC, or enter subject or dictate email message.
CC.
Say or spell first name.
Sunny.
Got it. Sunny. Sunny Chowdhury.
Select.
What would you like to do next? Add more recipients, BCC, or enter subject or dictate email message.
Subject.
Okay, speak your email subject.
Test email.
Got it. Test email. Confirm, rewrite, continue writing, or cancel.
Confirm.
Okay, speak your email.
Hello guys, I hope you are doing well. Full stop.
Got it. Hello guys, I hope you are doing well. Send, rewrite, continue writing, or cancel.
Send.
Email send. Gmail home screen. Currently selected. Unread. Normally play developer console pre-launch report. Unread.
Add star.
Added star. Gmail home screen. Currently selected. Unread and star.
Close Gmail.
Closing Gmail. Which app would you like to open?
Stop.
Shutting down.
Thank you, Joe.
Amazing, amazing, Joy girl. Now, I got a question for you because it sounds like you are able to interrupt. How do I go about interrupting Louis?
Okay, so great question. So what we have done is, so there is only one gesture that one needs to use while Louis voice session is on. This is what we call the magic gesture, just a 2-finger touch on the screen. Now it's essentially one can use it. You want to move things much faster, right? So you can just use it to interrupt Louis. You can use it, like, let's say if there are a series of emails, so it's reading one after another. So you want to make a selection on that particular email. Of course, you can do next, previous, etc. also. So just to make the whole experience much faster.
Yeah, because I was hearing her doing things and I'm sitting here wondering, well, how in the world was she interrupting, or making it stop and doing what she wants, without being too verbose or whatever the case may be. And it's just absolutely beautiful. And, the one that I really liked was that, everything about it is excellent, but I was fascinated by that contact management as well as the WhatsApp management. I think these are some of the things that those that are not familiar with the touch screen would really find very important to use, features to use. And great job, Pramit. Really, it seems like this thing keeps getting better and better,
Yeah, we are working hard, and for that I must really thank the users. So like I said, so many users across the world, and there's a lot of feedback, constructive feedback that we get on a daily basis. I get a chance to directly connect with users on my WhatsApp. I talk to them. So you got to also understand, is this app really useful? Is it really making a difference? How should we improve it? What are the apps we should do next time? So last, I would say 9-10 months, everything is based on user feedback completely. Because though I'm also visually impaired, and in a lot of ways, I have built Louis to solve my own problem. But you realize that, we are all different. And the more we can keep our open mind, we can keep our founders' egos out, and we can just listen to the users, what they are telling us, and just keep, improving it for them. So in a way, hopefully the mindset will remain as we are trying to serve the community and taking their help to make it work for all of us.
So that's actually a really fantastic. I mean, as I say, I always like the developer when they listen to what users say. It's kind of the first step to success. I mean, definitely after what he did. But I have a little question still. Is the text-to-speech engine actually built in, or that we can actually use the TTS engine, any TTS engine that we have already?
You asked about the text-to-speech engine?
Yes, the Google
Okay.
TTS. I've noticed that one.
Okay, so basically the way Miriam and Warren, no, this is very important. The way we have designed Louis is kept it completely open. So what it means is that now the user can select any text-to-speech engine, which will be only for Louis. So for example, you could have, let's say, your system TTS engine with which you run your talkback, let's say as Google, and you could have vocalizers set up for Louis. So the voices are different, and it can easily be done by voice. So you just start Louis, say change voice, and it will give you the options. Currently you are in Google, these are the options available. Just make the switch. If I say talk fast, talk slow, I can change the speed, etc. If I say, by the way, talk more, talk less, so the talk less will be in Louis it goes into low verbosity. So that can happen. And the other important thing is, in fact, it was only yesterday we were doing a webinar with Henshaws in UK, and one of the person asked that, look, I'm a blind and I'm completely dependent on my talkback. So will you be asking me to turn off talkback? And Louis doesn't, so that's why I said it's completely open. So Louis will work on top of a talkback. It will work even without a screen reader. Doesn't matter. We'll automatically adjust our settings. The only thing people have to remember is that while Louis voice session is on, of course, talkback gestures you cannot perform, because otherwise, it will mix up a lot of things.
Yes.
But talkback comes on. So during the voice session, only the 2-finger tap that Louis, that is allowed. The moment voice session is over, and one can turn it off by just turning off the screen or just saying stop or silent or whatever, and then talkback comes back. So it's built assuming that it's a seamless experience for a visually impaired.
That's great, because I was going to ask the same question, and Miriam beat me to it, because I was sitting here thinking, hey, it would be nice if I could choose my own TTS instead of maybe using the Google Speech TTS or something like that. I happen to be one that has several different kind of TTS engines, and I love to assign a particular TTS engine that I would prefer using with Louis. And that's nice that we could choose our TTS of choice to use with Louis. Now, I was sitting here listening to Joy perform all those things, and I was beginning to, is there, but yet I think I know my answer. I think that the chime was a little bit too loud, like when you start Louis, but I think it all probably is using the notification volume, and probably one could just set that to maybe a little bit lower so that, the Louis startup sound is not too loud or something like that. Or if it is possible, maybe one could have a different sound or a shortened sound or something like that. I was sitting here, thinking about those things.
Yeah, so you're right. It's a notification volume, but one can easily adjust it.
Yes. That makes sense. That's good.
In fact, morning, I must tell you, just an hour back, a friend from Nairobi, a user, he writes to me saying, I can't hear this ping. So I think his phone was probably on silent mode or vibrate mode, So I had to tell him, just increase your notification volume. That should fix it. So one can adjust that.
Well, good.
But it also gives you a vibration. So just to tell you, so instead, so you could also just, so
if you don't want sound, you could just use vibration.
Absolutely.
Great.
Because this ping sound you're right, can sometimes, you don't want to disturb others. So this is possible.
What I can say though, Pramit, is that you have this thing well thought out, and this is really good, because I could see a situation where I would rather just have it vibrate depending on where I'm at, and I could decide, hey, I just want it to vibrate instead of the startup sound and all of that. So you have it well thought out, and that was a good thinking on your part. Great job.
Well, I think it's I'll give all the credit to our users.
Well,
so we, by the way, have a WhatsApp group, and you can imagine, one update comes, and within hours, the users are all over it. This is not working. Improve this. This is working. Whatever, So that really helps. Really helps, because you just have to keep an open mind and be very, very responsive to user needs.
Yes, so that's actually amazing. So I have a question, because I've used Louis since it was in beta. I was a beta tester. I guess, like I think a couple of years ago. I hope I'm right. So my question is, how? I mean, why call it Louis? Is that because of Louis Braille, or I'm really curious with that.
Yeah, no, so you are right. So just to tell you, I mean, this is like almost what 2 years back. There was a very early prototype which hardly used to work, but we still put it up on Play Store, did nothing, But then one of the things we saw, strangely, is that we were getting users on their own and across the world. So we very quickly realized that at least there will be a global interest. So we then started looking, because one of the ways you can start Louis is by saying "Hey Louis" from the settings screen. So we then said, look, we need a short and sweet name, something that's easy to pronounce across the world. So whether you are in US or Mumbai in India or in Egypt, one should be able to pronounce it in the same way. So it was an ad agency that was helping us. They came up with this thought, and you're absolutely right, Mariam. It is inspired from Louis Braille. And so Braille has done so much in our lives. So even if Louis can do a little bit out of that, I think we would consider ourselves successful.
Louis would love what has happened in his name. So much has happened in the name of Louis Braille. And so I tell you what, Louis would be a proud kid sitting up there in heaven, dancing a jig. Wow. Great.
So by the way, Warren, can I just tell you what are the other things that we are doing so that users
Absolutely.
know what other things to expect? Okay, so one of the natural things we had to do was, if there are people across 90 countries using it, now we needed to get into languages. That's very important. So currently we have just started work on Hindi and in Spanish, and the whole idea is just to tell you, for a voice app, initially we thought it's going to be extremely complex because, getting into a language shouldn't be like rewriting your entire app, But we have now figured out an easy solution. So a very creative solution. So what will happen now is that we are very confident of getting Hindi out by mid-August. Before end September, Spanish. We have identified almost 17 to 20 languages, including some Indian languages, including Arabic. So for Africa, for example, Arabic and Swahili. These are the two we'll focus on. And basically, idea being that we, Spanish will take care of South America, and then we do a few European languages as well. So the idea is that, because my feeling is that people will be able to use much better use of it when it's in their native language. So that'll be awesome. We'll love to come back. And I'll also like to point out here that Warren has been helping us quite a lot. Warren, your advice in the past has been really helping us. And please keep doing that for us.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for joining us. And tell people how to get hold of you or get hold of Louis Braille and, your groups. If you have some groups that people can join, give that info, or if you prefer to send it to us in written format, we could have that, in our show notes. But I would like you to kind of tell people how to get hold of you or how to get hold of the app.
Okay. So number one, first, let's get a hold of the app. So just head over to Play Store and you just need to put in Louis Voice Control. Louis spelled out as Louie. One can also just put in voice control and you will find Louis. In the Play Store description itself, my email ID is provided there, but I'll anyway read it out again. So it is pramit@louisvoice.com. And again, Louis spelled out as Louie. You can be sure of getting a response from me. We will also share the WhatsApp group link that one can use to join. And by the way, also what happens, anybody who installs Louis will get an automatic email, which will have my contact details, WhatsApp, etc. Everything is there. So in fact, so you can just WhatsApp me. You can even just call me directly. And it will also have all the critical resources, how to start using Louis, how to book Uber, and so on. So all those, all the videos links are there. And of course, there is a user guide as well. There are videos embedded within the app, video links. So, and of course, give us your feedback. I think that's the most important thing.
Before we go, I have one feedback. I don't know if Louis does this already or no, but what we could do is, let's say we change the TTS for TalkBack and some problem happens, like there is no voice data installed or the TTS crashes. Can we invoke Louis and tell it to change the TTS for TalkBack? Otherwise, we would require sighted help to do that.
Okay, so no, we haven't done it yet. By the way, that's in our list. So one of the things now we'll be doing is, so what you're saying is really a system setting, right? So things like change the system TTS, correct? Or it could be something like check for update. So those are the kind of support we are going to bring in. So this is already, I think it has already come from the user. So thanks a lot. This is very useful.
But it is a good idea. If you could have that, I think that would be awesome, where people could use Louis to change the main TTS engine of the phone and all of that. I think that's a great idea, if it's doable, that is.
Oh, everything is doable. Let me assure you, it's just a question of, just the bandwidth. But otherwise, see, we are very sure. Android, I can tell you, see, the journey wasn't easy. Initially, every technology expert, accessibility expert told me cannot be done. Don't waste your time. But today we have reached a point where I'll tell you anything that we want to do on Android, we are somehow, the team is so good. We're somehow able to do it. So this is something we'll do it.
Great.
Great. You're actually the story of how this app came to life is really inspiring. I always love to see when, kind of a personal story actually develops something that helps people. That's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. So great job, really.
Yeah, I think it just happened for me. But yes, I do love to tell my story just in the hope, because a lot of people, like this lost phase, I think a lot of people have experienced it. So just in the hope that it might prove to be some kind of a motivation and, people can learn from my stupidities and mistake.
It is definitely a motivation, Pramit, because I have come across, blind people that have just become blind and as adults, and they're kind of frustrated and don't want to participate in anything at all. And so your story says that there's a hope even when you lose your sight or whatever disability that happens in life. There are workarounds that we could get above all of that. And so your story definitely is an inspiration to everyone. And I'm glad we had you come on and tell this story. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thanks very much, Pranit. It was great to have you on. Guys, what are your reflections on that?
That guy's a rock star, man. I really like Pramit, his enthusiasm and what he wants to do for the blind. These are the kind of people that I like. And that guy is definitely one of those. And one of my unsung heroes, definitely Pramit. Great guy. Love that guy.
The best part I like about the app was the document recognition, means scanned PDF documents can be read with the voice assistant on WhatsApp, and it can also describe image. So that two things were the best.
The things that I really liked about the Louis and the interview was actually this story, how Mr. Vergoa turned his story to something inspiring to people, how he turned the pain and the crisis to something beautiful that he actually did to help other people who are like him to use and stuff like that. So it was really, really inspiring. It was a spectacular story that definitely touched me.
Absolutely. Do give the app a whirl. We know that some in the community struggle with touchscreens, so voice control, especially an app like this, is a real alternative to heavy everyday touchscreen use. And now we turn to the next in our series of commentary demonstrations from Mariam.
Commentary screen reader, or the Chinese screen reader, has gotten really popular among blinds and visually impaired recently. And here, on the Blind Android Users podcast, we will have a series of episodes in which we will talk about how to use the screen reader and how to get the best out of it.
and welcome to another episode of CSR's Basics. So, first thing I want to mention before we actually get right into the demonstration, that there have been a lot of questions on my mailing list and a lot of interactions regarding CSR, which I'm really happy about. I know that, is really something that's amazing for Warren. He definitely loves that, and he definitely loves CSR, TalkBack. So, the things that what we thought about, that we were gonna have a Q&A session for CSR, just because we have a lot of questions, and sometimes I take a little bit of a time to actually answer them. So this Q&A session time and date would be announced during this week on our mailing list or Telegram group. It's gonna be for everyone who actually has any questions regarding CSR, and anyone who has a lot of experiences, definitely way more than me, about CSR and what it can do, and who actually likes to share his experiences with CSR. So, another thing I'd like to repeat, just because we actually did get a lot of questions about that, was the difference between the standard and the international version of CSR. So the standard version is actually the Chinese one that you probably won't need if you live outside of China. It has like the TTS that's in Chinese. It has the OCR that's in Chinese that you probably won't use. But on the other hand, the other version, which is the international one, doesn't have all this. It only has the stuff that would be useful for you as an international user. So this is the difference. If you can definitely install both and try out what you want. Actually make sure that when you actually go and install the update, it'll ask you if you want to install the international version or the standard version of CSR. Another thing that I'd like to mention, there's been an update that actually got released last week or so. This update was really important to me in particular, just because in CSR there's been a little bit of a bug, which was if you are on YouTube and you fast forward 10 seconds or rewind 10 seconds by those two buttons that we have, CSR used to actually take you to the slider right away after you press that button every single time, which was a little bit annoying, because if I want to rewind without needing to just scroll and get back to the button again after every single time that I hit this button, it was too annoying, since TalkBack doesn't do that. But after the last update that has been released, this thing actually is no longer available. It doesn't actually take you to the slider unless you go to it if you want. So what we're gonna talk about today is a couple things. The first thing is we're gonna talk about some items in the main menu and what they can do. Also, we're gonna talk about the navigation menu and the magic that it does. I know we have mentioned that before, we did, but there have been some additional stuff that we definitely need to talk about. So let's get started with the demonstration. First thing, let's go to the navigation menu and see what it can do. So,
Explore. Reader.
For instance, I'm on my home screen right now. And, okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm here on the home screen, and we open the navigation menu. If you want to open the navigation menu, there are a couple things that you can do. First thing, you can open just the main menu, and you'll find the navigation menu as the first item. Also, you can just set a custom gesture to open the navigation menu. So I'm gonna open the main menu.
Menu. Navigation menu. Navigation menu sentence. Navigation menu sentence.
So it tells me that it's actually by sentence, and this something that's kind of it's kind of annoying in the navigation menu. First thing,
edit all button, sentence button, char button, paragraph button.
It considers words as sentences, and actually this is a mistake in the translation, because sentences are definitely different than words. So here you'd have the characters,
Char button. Paragraph
paragraphs,
Char sentence button.
sentences, which are the words, not the tenses themselves, and be aware of that.
All button.
And all. Also, there are no lines, which is weird. Although we have lines in the rotor as types of navigations, but we don't have it here. I really hope it can be added, just because sometimes I really wanna just copy a single line without copying the whole paragraph or something. It's sometimes really important. So let's see what we can do. We are, just because I'm actually focused on the home screen right now. We have
Edit cancel button. App reader.
the reader. So we have a little button here.
And cancel button. Net reader. R. Capital R. Lowercase a. Lowercase ad. Lowercase d. Lowercase r. Lowercase r.
So what happened right now, just once I hit the reader, this word in the navigation menu, it just spelled it right away. The other thing as well is, if you actually selected paragraphs, if you have a paragraph, it'll read you it word by word, which is definitely a cool thing. So we want to go to the edit button and see what magic it can do.
Cancel edit button. Split editing sentence. Split editing. 1 reader. Paragraph button. Char button. Send more button. Copy button.
You can either
more char button. Paragraph button. Reader.
Just hit this.
Reader text. Showing English.
It's gonna open up an edit box in which you can edit this paragraph or word or whatever you actually have selected. And after you can do that, you could just
cancel button. Import button. Reader text box editing.
Either you can import a text from the clipboard and add it to that, or
cancel. OK button. New
you can just
cancel.
OK after you edit. And
English reader.
What's gonna happen is that you would have
more button. Copy button.
Copy, so you can copy what you've edited. We have the more button.
Copy button. OK button unavailable. Copy. More button. Sentence button.
Which doesn't show anything, just because
more. OK but cancel button. Split edit.
I have the free version. I don't have the premium right now, so it doesn't work unless you have the premium version. What it does is you can actually translate, you can append copy. This is what's called in the menu advanced split editing. It's the same thing pretty much.
Cancel button.
So this is the navigation menu. You can definitely edit what you want to copy, or a certain, like for instance, I did have a post on Facebook, and this post was actually a quote. And the author that actually has written this quote said it was written incorrectly. There was a wrong letter. What I needed to do is just open the navigation menu, and I picked this word, and I edited it, and I changed, and I re-edited the letter that was wrong.
Okay, cancel button.
So we'll cancel.
Explore.
And we'll go to the main menu again and see what features we do have here.
Menu.
First thing, we will hit more.
More button. Menu. More button.
More again to expand it to the last thing.
Menu. Menu. No command.
So no command, it's nothing, just because it doesn't do anything. If you just press that, it will take you out of the menu.
Plugins.
Also, I want to point something out. Be aware that every single item in this menu, you could actually add gesture, or add a custom gesture. And what I want to say by that is there has been a topic on our mailing list that was, discussing custom gestures and if it's actually available for free users. It's actually available, but what you need to do is just go to the program settings and pick the action settings and choose that you want to use custom gestures, just because it uses the default gesture mapping. So you won't be able to edit anything because it's the default strict. So just check this checkbox, and afterwards you can definitely assign gestures for applications, for certain functions and stuff like that.
Custom voice commands.
custom voice commands here. You could set up the voice commands to actually do certain stuff in the app itself, like suspend. You can just tell it to suspend voice feedback. Open the navigation menu or whatever.
Tools.
The tools. Those are the tools that we actually talked about.
Open an app.
Open an app. If you want to open a certain app and actually choose this app from here without going to the program settings.
Select a navigation type.
Select a navigation type. This is important if you actually messed up the rotor and you want to go to a certain navigation type without using the rotor and the down and up swipes. What you can do is just go here, and it's going to show you every single navigation type that you have, like words, lines, paragraphs, and stuff like that.
Previous navigation type.
Previous navigation type. It's going to take you to the previous navigation type.
Next navigation type.
The same.
Previous navigation unit. Next focus monitoring. Manage the focus monitoring.
So the focus monitoring is how the application is going to actually focus on the things and what's going to say when it actually focuses on it. So how it's going to monitor what happens on your phone.
Pointing mode.
Pointing mode is actually regarding the camera, because DShow has a camera, but actually it's only used in the premium version. It's not available in the free one.
Previous item. Next item.
Previous item. Next item. Top. So top, what it does, I really love this one because it takes you to the top of the screen. For instance, I am browsing my notes that I've taken, or a certain website, and I want to go to the top without scrolling and scrolling and scrolling or something. Especially if it's a long list of stuff. You just would either customize the gesture or just open the menu and actually press on this, and it's gonna take you to the top of the screen. And also there's a bottom. It does the same thing, but it takes to the opposite direction.
Left shortcut. Right shortcut.
Left shortcut and right shortcut. You can assign them to do some stuff.
Scroll up.
Scroll up.
Scroll down.
Scroll down.
Decrease slider.
Decrease slider. If you are on a slider and you haven't actually set like for instance a gesture, you could just do that, decrease and increase. But what I don't like about that is it decreases and increases by 5%. I really would like it that it's much more customizable, so I can just tell it if you want to increase by 5 or 4 or 3 or 2% at a time.
An increase slider. Go to the previous section.
Go to the previous section.
Go to the next. Go to the previous link. Go to the next link.
It's gonna take you to the previous next link.
Go to the previous control.
Previous control.
Go to the next control. Decrease volume. Increase volume.
Again, you can set gestures to every single one of them.
Current time.
Current time. If you hit on that, it's gonna tell you the time. It's kind of useful and not useful at the same time, just because it's like you can set it up from the status bar.
Timer.
The timer.
Current position.
Current position.
Virtual screen. Captcha.
Virtual screen and the capture. So all those stuff are actually we did talk about before, but what I want to talk about, and it's actually a disadvantage, is the screen curtain or the dim screen that's in, as you can say in TalkBack. So the screen curtain here acts differently than TalkBack does. What happens is once you turn the screen curtain on, it definitely definitely decreases the brightness of the screen to 0%. That's what happens. But when you turn it back on again, what happens is it doesn't take it back to what it was before. So you need to just get it back to 50 or 60 what you've set it at, which is sometimes pretty annoying, just because if I want to do something pretty quickly and someone is wants to look at the phone, I just can't go to the quick settings and actually adjust it to what it was before. It's really annoying, but although like CSR actually has permission for to adjust system settings, but it doesn't. It's really annoying thing. I hope it gets fixed soon, because that's what I really love about TalkBack. Still, there are some pros and cons for both of them.
Gestures description.
Gestures description. This is like the help or the tutorial that's in TalkBack. It's pretty much the same thing.
Translate.
Translate. It actually uses Google Translate. So if you want to translate a certain item or something, you could just focus on it and translate. But what I want to say is that you have to select in the settings your input language and the output language, or the primary, secondary, whatever you want to call it, just because you would have to tell CSR what it can do.
Curtain.
And here's the curtain. And by the way,
notification from YouTube.
Sometimes if I restart the phone, so let's say I restarted my phone, and it was on screen curtain, and I opened the phone again. When the phone gets back on, what happens is the curtain is supposed to be turned on, but it tells me that it's still off. I mean, like, as you can see here, my curtain was actually on, and I restarted my phone, and now it tells me that it's not on. I mean, it's pretty much the same case. It's like it's not on or off, just because it even doesn't turn the brightness back as it was. So it's pretty much the same thing.
Clipboard menu.
Clipboard menu. This is one of the amazing things that I love about CSR. So, you could just copy stuff, and they're gonna be actually stored here in the clipboard menu. And even if you restart your phone, you won't lose them. This is what I really love about the clipboard menu, that it's in CSR. But what happens in the copying, the pasting, and this is another disadvantage. So if I have an edit box, and the name of the edit box is like search music, for instance, and I pasted something, sometimes CSR messes it up and pastes the name of the edit box. It's really, really annoying to me sometimes. I feel like, why just do that? So what I can do about it is just type a space bar, and then I could just, paste what I want. It doesn't do anything. So I think the problem with it is just because the edit box is empty. So we will actually talk about the other part of the episode today. It's already small because I don't want to make it that long. I've already been talking for like a lot. So the other thing that I want to mention is how to upload especially like sound themes to the server. So what you have to do is just create an account, register for an account as we did before. And if you are a programmer, you actually would need to be a programmer first, because you have to actually make the sound theme in an SPK extension. And then what you can do is just go to plugins and extensions, and then you would find an upload button there. What you would do is just upload and pick the file with the SPK thing, and it's gonna be uploaded right away to the CSR server. Or what else you can do if you actually are not a programmer is just edit one that already exists. Add your sounds to it, add your audible stuff to it, and then afterwards, what's gonna happen is you will have this SPK file in the CSR folder that we actually mentioned in the previous episode. So what you can do is just go to it and upload this SPK file, which is definitely edited, to the other stuff. So that's how you can upload stuff to the CSR server. It's pretty easy. It's not hard. I really love how it works. Before, it wasn't even available to actually upload your stuff unless you live in China. So that was it for today. I hope you liked the episode. I hope it was useful. And if you have any questions, feel free to actually contact the podcast crew at the contact us at blindandroidusers.com, or even our mailing list. And our Q&A session about CSR would definitely, as I mentioned before, be announced at the mailing list on our Telegram group in just a couple of days. Thank you for listening. See you next week. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you do actually have any questions, do feel free to
reach out to me or to the whole podcast at contact us at blindandroidusers.com. And I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Mariam and Warren. That must have persuaded you to switch, no?
Well, actually, I see a couple problems with that, though, because number one, I was going to be asking Miriam about that, but I was a little bit confused. So she talks about update. When you launch it, it asks you as to which one you want to update to. Now, why would it want me to update to something that is not installed on my system? If I have the standard version or if I have whatever, why would it be asking me which one I want to update to instead of updating what I already have?
Well, what was happening before is in the previous update, it actually did that. And the update earlier than it didn't do that. And the latest update, it did do that. So it didn't ask me. It
So it's
already
back and
installed
forth.
the standard. Yeah, it's back and forth.
Can
It's still
backup is mine.
unstable. Exactly. So I was like, even when, in the earlier update, before the current one, when it happened, I was kind of confused. Like, why? Why it got back? And like, yeah.
I see. Now, another problem, though, that I see is if my clipboard retains something, that's a huge security hole for me. I wouldn't want that.
You mean when you restart and everything's still there?
Yes, that's a big problem.
Well, I guess it's sometimes a problem, but sometimes it's an advantage. Depends on what happens. Just because I lost something before and my phone just restarted because of a problem. And I was actually grateful to find the things still in my clipboard. So it's still an advantage and a disadvantage at the same time, I guess.
Yeah, because you have sniffers out there, and that's one of the things that Google is trying to block, because you don't want something trying to access your clipboard, and most especially if it's retaining something that long. I think I'll be very careful as to what I copy to my clipboard. Just mention that.
I mean, we can just delete the thing that you just pasted or you no longer need in the clipboard.
Yeah, but one is not always going to remember to do that. Well, I'm just mentioning that, though, that people are aware. Be careful about what you copy there, because if that thing is going to remain there infinitum, you want to be careful.
Well, yeah.
Excellent. Some more quality commentary debate, I think, between Mariam and Warren. But yes, definitely something to keep in mind if that thing's gonna stick around. And finally, we turn to the My Android Journey section this week, brought to us by Dan Mathis.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to take you way back. So back in 2000, let's say 8, 9. And we'll go ahead and go with 8. I started my journey to touchscreens, which led my journey to Android. Now, at the time, we all know Apple was launching their product, the iPhone, which led to the death of Windows Mobile at that time. Alright, so with that said, and fast forward to 2000, let's say 10, and I would say early 2010, late 2009, I had what's called the Motorola Q9C, and prior Q9. My ex-girlfriend, I believe I bought that off of her, or she gave it to me, one of the two, which was the Q9, or the Motorola Q, not the Q9C. And then I switched to, what was it, Sprint, and ended up getting the Q9C. Then I saw she had its sibling, I forgot what carrier it was, but it was the touchscreen with the slider keyboard. For AT&T, it was the Tilt, and then for Sprint, I'm trying to think of its name, and it's flat out escaping me. But anyway, with that said, it had a touchscreen, it slid out, and you would need to use the Pocket PC of mobile speak. So, with that set. And that's actually the way that Mobile Speak taught a person how to use a touchscreen, their gestures, other than the swiping, like finding left, right, where the icons are on the screen and actually tapping them. That's actually where I got my experience from. Still use it today. So let's fast forward. Well, after keeping my iPod here and there, I turned to T-Mobile. Well, T-Mobile had started getting various Android devices. I'll admit that my wife was the one who got the Motorola Click before I did, and before I went to the Android. And we'd go, because I like phones, I was interested, to T-Mobile. And eventually, the phone that I had, I turned in and ended up going to the MyTouch 4G. Now, my journey really did start with a podcast, and that podcast is escaping me. It was JJ Medoff, Joe Steinkamp, Anna G. Those three had a podcast, and I believe it's AndroidAccessibility.net, if I'm correct. If I'm wrong, okay. And that's where my journey began. So my devices are in the following. I'm going to make this pretty quick. Again, this is like take 5 now. So it's the MyTouch 4G Slide, and these are all from HTC. Now, switching from HTC, went to the Galaxy S3. Yes, I was one of the few. And then from there, if I recall, I hope I'm not leaving anything out, I switched from there. Oh, yes, I went to the Nexus 5. That was a beautiful phone. It was very, very, very light. During that time, I was offered a iPhone 3GS, turned that one down. And from the iPhone 5, I went to Fruitvale, which is the from the Nexus 5, I went to Fruitvale, because my Nexus 5 got its last update. And then, because it was Jelly Bean. Okay, so once my Fruitvale device slid into my wife's cup of soda, I wasn't there, and she did. Well, I was there, and she left it on the bed and didn't tell me. Anyway, I went to the Nexus 5X, if you recall, and then from there, I believe I had the G2, and then I'm getting, because I got tired of LG's extra mess on their device, or bloatware. And then I went back to the Nexus 6. So yes, I have a history of just returning back to Google devices, because in the words of the former passing CEO of Apple, it just works. So with that said, going forward, I had a Fruitvale, a few Fruitvale devices, Apple devices. Well, just gloss over that one. So, yeah. And then, because I've had like 2 phones at the same time. And then, after that, I had a LG K30. And that was in 2017, 18. And then after, because in 17 I had the Galaxy S7. So, the K30 after that, we switched carriers. Then, here we are. When we came up here to Florida, I had the iPhone SE. My spouse dropped her phone in the toilet, which is a K30, unfortunately. And eventually, that was that. So I left T-Mobile and went to Verizon. I've been with them since. And the devices I've acquired and I own is the Galaxy S20, and I have my Pixel 3, which was the first device I got with him, and my iPhone. I have multiple devices. Oh, and the iPad. And then, yeah. And then another device I acquired from my spouse is the Galaxy Tab 2, which I plan to root. So those are all my devices. I've had a journey. I really have. Do I regret my journey? In no way do I ever. Do I agree with Warren and everyone that currently is on the podcast that's out now? Speaking of Fruitvale. I do. I really do. I just wish people would stop getting together and saying Android is not accessible. And what I really wish they do is stop making Android in certain instances gesture-based work like an iPhone. I mean, to perform, not work, but perform like an iPhone. That workflow, in the end, doesn't always apply. That's all I'm going to say. But that's my journey.
Thanks very much, Dan. Any reflections on Dan's story?
Dan's a great guy. I like that guy. And thank you so much, Danny, for bringing us the Android journey story. Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. And so to close this week, Austin, where do people go to find us?
So to get in touch with us, people can visit us on our website, that is blindandroidusers.com. If you have questions regarding the podcast or comments or feedback or even the tips and tricks with TalkBack or CSR that you want to share with our listeners, you can send it to contact us at blindandroidusers.com. We would like you to come live and share with us your Android journey story. But if you cannot do that, and if you want to send in your recorded Android journey story, you can do that by sending it to myandroidjourney@blindandroidusers.com and subscribe to our fantastic mailing list that talks about CSR, Android, everything in between, TalkBack, by sending in an email to blindandroidusers plus subscribe at groups.io. And you can subscribe to our Telegram group, which is now more than 200 members strong. We talk about everything there, from Android to Windows 11 to TalkBack to CSR, everything. All technology is discussed there. So the link for that will be in the show notes. And follow us on Twitter. Join our Clubhouse. We need to get Clubhouse a little more active. We will come up with some plans. So join us on Clubhouse and definitely subscribe to us on YouTube. There's a custom link now, youtube.com/blindandroidusers. Till next week, see you and have a nice 4th of July holiday to all those celebrate. Have a safe holiday, and I hope there are nothing on fire there, because fireworks, I think they can cause a lot of fire, wildfire especially. That's what we see on TV. So have a nice, safe 4th of July.
Yep, that's it, folks. See you next week.
And we'll see you next week, guys. Thank you so much for listening.
See you next week and have an amazing 4th of July. Thank you.
And that has been another episode of the Blind Android Users Podcast. As always, we appreciate hearing from you. You send those email messages to contact us at blindandroidusers.com. For those My Android Journey stories, we encourage you to send those to myandroidjourney@blindandroidusers.com. Until we see you in our next episode, you have a wonderful day.